The day my dad's secret garage changed everything we thought we knew. I've been sitting on this for a few weeks, and I think narrating it out might help me process. My family's life got turned upside down because of something we found, and it wasn't in a letter or an email, but in an actual hidden garage behind my dad's workshop. Buckle up, because this is a ride. I'm 30, the middle child in my family. My brother Andy is 33, and our little sister Kayla is 22. We grew up in a quiet part of North Carolina where neighbors know each other's dogs' names and everyone waves when you drive by. My parents have always been what people call salt of the earth. Dad owns a small auto repair shop. Mom's a middle school teacher. They've been married 35 years and always seemed like the definition of stability. We didn't grow up rich, but we had everything we needed: a warm house, good food, and parents who showed up to every game, recital, and science fair. 2 weeks ago, Andy called and said Dad wanted help cleaning out the workshop behind the shop. He's been talking about retiring, and I figured it was just part of closing up shop. Kayla and I agreed to meet them on Saturday. We spent the morning sorting through greasy tools and old car parts. Around lunch, Andy accidentally knocked a stack of tires over, and one rolled into a dusty tarp along the back wall. When he pulled the tarp away, we saw a door. Not just any door, a heavy steel one with a coated padlock. None of us had ever seen it before. Andy, since when do you have a secret vault, Dad? Dad, shrugging, that's just storage. But his voice was too casual, and his hands were shaking a little. Mom, who'd been sitting at a workbench drinking sweet tea, frowned. Mom, storage for what? Dad hesitated. Then he sighed, grabbed a keyring, and unlocked it. Behind the door was a spotless space way bigger than we expected. Inside were 3 classic cars, gleaming under work lights: a '67 Mustang, a cherry red Corvette, and a sleek black Camaro. There were also shelves lined with trophies, old Polaroids, and a couple of leather jackets that looked like they belonged in a biker movie. We all just stood there, stunned. Kayla, are you in a gang? Dad, laughing, no, sweetie. He rubbed the back of his neck and sat down on a stool. That's when he told us the story. Before he met Mom, Dad was deep into the street racing scene. He'd grown up poor and found freedom behind the wheel. He was good, like really good. Those cars were his old racers. He and a crew of friends used to travel across the South, racing for prize money and trophies. Mom stared at him like she was seeing a stranger. She had no idea. Dad, I left all that behind when we got serious. I didn't want that life anymore, too dangerous. Turns out he walked away after a close friend got seriously injured during a race. He promised himself he'd build a safer, steadier life if he ever had a family. So he locked up that part of himself, literally, and focused on us. What should have been a cool discovery turned heavy fast. Mom felt blindsided, not because of the cars, but because of the secrecy. Mom, 35 years, and you never thought to mention you were basically a real-life Fast and Furious character? Dad kept apologizing. He said he wasn't hiding it out of shame. He just wanted a clean slate. But the more he explained, the more upset Mom got. Andy was fascinated, of course. He kept asking about horsepower and track times. Kayla was somewhere between awestruck and worried Dad had a secret family hiding behind the next wall. While they talked, I started flipping through the Polaroids. Most were of Dad and his friends at races, holding trophies or standing by cars. Then I found one that made my stomach lurch. It was Dad with another woman. She was leaning against the Mustang, laughing, holding a baby. On the back, in faded ink, it said, Summer '89, me, Jay, and little M. That's when everything blew up. I showed Mom the picture. Her face went white. Mom, who's Jay? Who's the baby? Dad's eyes widened. He sank onto a chair and rubbed his temples. He explained that Jay was his ex, someone he dated just before meeting Mom. They'd broken up because she didn't want to settle down. She left town and apparently left him with a huge secret. Dad, I didn't know about the baby until years later. By then, Jay had moved across the country. I tried to find them but couldn't. He said he kept the photo because it was the only proof they'd existed. He hadn't told Mom because he didn't know if the kid was his, and over time, the guilt of not knowing just got buried deeper. Mom walked out, tears streaming. Kayla followed, trying to comfort her. Andy stayed, firing off questions like an investigative reporter. I stayed quiet, feeling torn. Part of me was angry at Dad for hiding so much, but another part saw how sad and ashamed he looked. Dad, I wanted to be better than the man I used to be. I didn't want my past to taint what we built. He said he'd been scared that Mom would leave if she knew everything. That night was rough. Mom slept in the guest room. Andy kept texting me links to private investigator services, convinced we had a long-lost sibling out there. Kayla sent a million crying face emojis and suggested we all go to therapy. A couple of days later, Dad sat us all down in the living room. He told Mom he wanted to track down Little M, get a DNA test, and finally put this to rest. She agreed, but said trust would take time. Andy dove into research like it was his job. He found old racing newsletters and forums. After a week, he located someone who remembered Jay moving to Arizona in the early 90s with a toddler. Dad hired a licensed genealogist, and they're piecing things together. It's slow, but there are leads. Meanwhile, we've started family counseling. Mom admitted part of her anger came from realizing how little we sometimes know about the people closest to us. Dad's been patient, answering questions, letting us process. One Saturday, he invited us back to the secret garage. We spent the afternoon polishing the cars while he told us funny stories about races gone wrong, like the time he accidentally drove through a chicken coop. Everyone's fine, except the coop. It didn't erase the hurt, but it helped. We don't know if Little M is out there waiting to meet us or if it'll turn into a dead end. But at least Dad isn't carrying this secret alone anymore. Mom hasn't stepped foot in the garage since that day, but she's talking to Dad again. Kayla made a playlist called Dad's Secret Life with songs from the 80s. Andy's trying to convince Dad to race one of the cars just once. Mom vetoed that. As for me, I keep thinking about how we grow up believing our parents' lives started when we were born. But they had whole stories before us, stories that can shock, hurt, or inspire, depending on when they surface.